Good afternoon. Ladies and gentlemen, it's truly an honor to welcome you to this special occasion as we gather to celebrate 90 years of the Tennessee Walking Horse Breeders and Exhibitors Association. It was 90 years ago that a few visionaries sparked an idea that would grow into a breed, a legacy, and really a global phenomenon that's known for its grace, versatility, and of course the smooth ride that we all love. Today we celebrate that mission and their vision, and of course the mission to preserve, promote, and protect that has served us well over these 90 years. And it has certainly proved the test of time. One of the things I talk a lot about is the global recognition of the Tennessee walking horse, and that global recognition that brings notoriety to Tennessee and to Marshall County and to Lewisburg. And I gave this example the other day. Our board at its last meeting approved which seats we'd elect directors for. So for every 80 members a state or a region has, they get one director. And this year, at the end of 2024, we finished with a 10-year high as far as the number of members. And we added 4 directors to our roster that will be elected to serve in 2026. One from Kentucky, one from Canada, one from Germany, and one from Israel. So that's pretty amazing. And all of those people, when they get their papers in the mail or when they mail them in, they're looking at that Lewisburg, Tennessee address every single time. So there's people around the globe that know about Lewisburg but may not be able to pick it out on a map. I'm excited to have so many friends with us today. I mean, we've got folks here, past employees, past directors. Eddie Hunter, the grandson of our first president, Bird Hunter's with us. We have our friends from the Celebration, from the Walking Horse Trainers Association, the Tennessee Department of Agriculture, the Tennessee Farm Bureau, Marshall County Chamber, local and state officials, staff from both Congressman John Rose and Congressman Andy Ogles. We welcome all of you. We're glad to have so many friendly faces out in the crowd. I also would like to take just a second to welcome 3 of my predecessors that have served as executive director of our association, Ron Thomas, Tracy Boyd, and Roy Williams, all with us today, and we're glad to have you gentlemen with us. Thank you. Finally, I want to introduce 2 individuals who we're especially grateful to for their longstanding support of our industry and our mission. Their presence here speaks volumes about the importance of our breed and our role in Tennessee's history and culture. At this time, it's my pleasure to welcome State Representative Todd Warner and State Senator Joey Hensley. Gentlemen, thank you for your continued support, and I'd like to welcome you to the stage at this time. Along with our president, Amanda Wright.
I want to say it's an honor to represent Marshall County, and to be here today. I represent Marshall and Southern Williamson, and myself and Senator Hensley here have a House joint resolution that has been signed by the governor, both speakers, and also we have a flag here that's been flown over the Capitol in honor of the Breeders Association, and we'd just like to present that to the Breeders Association, to Miss Amanda today, and just want to congratulate you on 90 years, and hope things, I hope we have another good 90 years, and we'll continue to see this association grow. So again, it's an honor to be here, and thank you. Senator Hensley, you want to say a few words?
I'd like to add to what Todd said. It's an honor for me to represent Marshall County, and I have some horses back in Hornwall, and I actually have a walking horse, not the caliber of the world champions, but my children ride them. So I just like to congratulate the association for 90 years, and that Tennessee name and Tennessee walking horse it recognized all over the world because of what you do here in Lewisburg. And thank you, and it's an honor for me to be a part of the celebration today.
Thank you, Representative Warner and Senator Hensley. It's truly an honor, and we appreciate y'all's support. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the International Board of Directors of the Tennessee Walking Horse Breeders and Exhibitors Association, it is my privilege to welcome you to this very special occasion, our 90th anniversary luncheon. Today, we celebrate more than just a milestone. We honor a legacy. 90 years of preserving, promoting, and protecting a breed that represents the very best of our state and our heritage. It all began right here in Lewisburg in 1935 with a vision shared on a street corner. Since then, the Tennessee Walking Horse has walked its way onto trails and into hearts all across arenas in all 50 states and around the globe. But it never left home, and neither have we. We are here because of dedicated horsemen and women, volunteers, staff, supporters, and especially because of strong leadership across generations. It's now my great honor to recognize the individuals who have helped guide us through the decades. Please join me in welcoming and thanking our past presidents that are in attendance today, whose vision and service have helped shape Twhbea into what it is today. Mr. Charles Cleghorn, he served from 1989 to 1991, and again from 97 to 1999. Mr. Walt Chisholm, serving from 1991 to 1992. Mr. Stephen Smith, who served from 1995 to 1997, and again from 2014 to 2016. Mr. Tracy Boyd, who served from 2012 to 2013. And my predecessor, Mr. Jack Heffington, who served from 2021 to 2023. Thank you, gentlemen, and we appreciate all that you've done for Twhbea and for the breed.
So I thought what we'd do next is just go year by year through the last 90 years and talk about accomplishments. Just kidding. We did try to think about a good way to mark the occasion and honor the history, and there's a lot of it. So there are books on each of your table that have history of our first 90 years and a timeline through those decades. Please take that. There's more out in the lobby. Take some home for friends. Feel free to do that. But we thought we would kind of do this with a discussion. So I'm gonna ask Bobby Beach, Sharon Brandon, and Steve Smith to join me up front at this time. We thought, Bobby Beach is, I had to Google it how to not say the oldest member. He's the longest tenured member. He's been a member since he was 16 years old. So he's not necessarily the oldest, but the longest tenured member. Sharon Brandon was our longest serving registrar here at the association. And then Steve Smith, who you may have noticed during Amanda's introductions, has served more years as president than anyone else. So I thought maybe these three would add a perspective and give us a chance to ask them a few questions, get their take on the last 90 years, and then I hope you guys will be thinking of challenging questions to try to stump one of the three of them. Yeah, this is a game show. Yeah, turn them on. Oh, are they on? They're on. You don't do anything. So, my first of all, thank you so much for doing this. And my first question for each of you, we'll take you one at a time. But as we mark 90 years of TWHBEA, just kind of what does this milestone mean to you? And of the many changes you've seen over the decades, is there a specific moment or development that stands out as especially pivotal for our breed? For the association. I'll start with you, Mr. Smith.
Well, first of all, you need to know we weren't here on the first day. we weren't here 90 years ago. There's been a lot of pivotal parts that we've experienced in the last 40 or 50 years, which I think we can speak to. But it's really a reflection of we've got such a nice horse. And we all like to brag about what good riders we are, but our horses are easy to ride, and they don't bite you or kick you unless you got a bad one. So I think the real blessing is the fact that our product is so good. Well-meaning people, good and bad, hadn't been able to screw it up. So it's been a pleasure to be associated with it.
I should have started with you because you probably are the intelligent one in this group, but or you at least know more.
No, my heart's with the registry. I love the horses, I love the horse shows, but my heart was with the registry because that's where I began. And I watched it grow from a manual paper process to computers. But to me, the jewel was the people that put this registry together, and don't forget it, they were before their time. They were able to see a process that would forever preserve the pedigree of our wonderful horse. And the horse has survived in spite of us human beings. And I don't have to tell you all of that. And you all have been a part of it. And it takes a village. So in my instance, I had a wonderful staff that will always have a special place in my heart. Now, there was some controversy from time to time.
That's what stuff we're looking to get to.
Well, no, because I've got a fact checker here out in the audience somewhere, I believe, that doesn't. Yeah. And I didn't bring my voodoo doll, so no. It takes a lot of wonderful people, and I'm thankful and blessed to have been a part of it.
Mr. Beach?
First of all, I'm going to talk about my family and what this has meant to them and to me. Somewhat personal, maybe a little bit selfish even. But it all started with my family when Wood Beach, my grandfather, joined Bert Hunter and Jim McCullough and the other people to meet at the old Wallace home on Cornersville Road to start their organization. My dad was president for 2 terms. My brother Steve was president for 2 terms. He's passed away. And I have been fortunate enough to be on various committees, especially back in the days. Where is Sis? Sis Osborne and I have traveled from coast to coast to promote our horse. She was very good at that. Do you want me to talk about the little incident?
Well, let's start there because that was my first question for you was, in the history book when you look through it, one of the things, there's a lot of things in there that was interesting to me I didn't know, but I mean it was we went a long time where the election results weren't announced and the voting totals weren't announced, and that's something at some point the board said, look, we need to be a little more transparent and we're going to announce the tallies for the votes and all that, but that wasn't always the case. And I told you at the beginning, Bobby Beach joined when he was 16, and that's just the tip of the iceberg of the story of why he became a member specifically then, and kind of that election. If you want to go, is that what you want to talk about? Yep, go ahead.
Okay. Well, it was 1958. 1958 was a good year. The Korean War was over. Our economy was rocking and rolling and good. Dwight Eisenhower was president. Gas was 31 cents a gallon. there was, the music that year was by the Everly Brothers and Elvis Presley. They had something in common beside music. They both of those groups had walking horses. At Graceland, some of those horses are still there from breeding. In Knoxville, Tennessee in 1958, the unpredictable and incredible event happened. The University of Chattanooga Moccasins beat the University of Tennessee in football, 14-6. And the Chattanooga people wanted to tear the goalpost down. Once they got the goalpost down, the fight started. And they fought in the stadium, they fought on the ground, they fought everywhere. The cops had to call in the Knoxville fire department to hose them down to stop the fighting. That leads me to a subject that there was another bit of disagreement going on, not connected to any of those things, but to our horse. It appeared that there was a group of people that wanted to limit the number of mares that a stallion could produce in a year. Now, that did not sit well with the Harlansdale people, nor with my dad, who had Marigold Boy, Harlan's with Midnight Sun. And that vote was coming up at the annual meeting. A gentleman from Nashville, Mr. John Amos, was running for president. He was a wealthy man, attorney, owned a coal mine in Kentucky. And besides those things, he was also very much against horse abuse, soaring. He was running, but he was running scared. So what do you do when you're running scared? He had access to a coal mine up in Kentucky. And remember that for just a minute. My brother Steve and I was told that morning to dress up a little bit. When you get through filling up water buckets and feeding hay, get dressed and come on up here to the Twhbea building. And I want you kids to vote, and I want you to see what's going on. So we did. So we came up to vote. My dad paid $10, $5 each. That was Miss Brandon said that was the fee back then. There were no rules. You didn't have to own a horse. You didn't have to do anything. If you had $5, you could be a member. So my brother and I, Steve and I, were sitting there and waiting, and all of a sudden, a Greyhound bus pulled up out front. Door opened, and these men started filing out of the bus. And I was told that these coal miners, they worked for Mr. Amos up in Kentucky. And they lined up, and Mr. Amos gave them each, when they came through the door, Mr. Amos gave them $5 each. They went over and had it registered, paid their $5, sit down, and they were eligible to vote. Now then, I don't have to tell you who won the election, but it didn't sit well with everybody, especially Mr. Crawford from Alabama. Didn't sit well with him. Don't know all the details because it was in another room, but the executive director of that time was Big Tom Fulton. Big Tom Fulton was not called Big Tom for a reason. He was a big man, and he had a beautiful horseshoe diamond ring that he wore everywhere he went. And the only thing I knew is that he hit Mr. Crawford in the head, and I think the fight stopped there. And to the day he died, I understand from those there that Mr. Crawford had a scar on his head the shape of a horseshoe when he was put down. Now, hard to believe that my brother, 15, and me, 16 at that time, hard to believe that years later that Steve would serve two terms as president of this organization. There was another young man that I have sort of overlooked that was crazy about walking horses and made his first celebration in 1958. And he wanted to be there because he wanted to see Sam Pascal ride Setting Sun. And that was his hero. And he and I talking about it, remember exactly in 1958, because we'll never forget it, how Sam Pascal at confirmation judging took the saddle off, lined the horse up, parked him out, threw the reins over his neck, and stood back against the rail. And when the judges came by, Setting Sun picked up his ears, raised his head, and the crowd went crazy. And I can remember that like yesterday. That other young man, that 15-year-old guy that fell in love with walking horses then, is here today. Who would ever dream that this kid would someday be head of the biggest horse show in the world, and also later as served a term as president of this organization? He's been introduced once, but I'm going to ask him to stand again, Ron Thomas.
Is that it? Can I ask somebody else a question now?
I got one more
Okay.
thing to add to this. So, Monday morning, my dad gets a phone call, SW, I think there's something up here you want to see. And the New York Times had made a copy of it, had made its way to the breeder's office. And on the front cover, in color, hard to believe, was Bobby and Steve Beach on the front cover of the New York Times with a story of what was going on. Now, Sports Illustrated, according to Walt, my friend Walt, said that their way they described it, it was a fight, and it was a door kicked down, and somebody turned off the air conditioner and turned on the heat. Why those things, I don't know. But there, as Sharon has said, there have been many disagreements that have been solved, not quite in that direction, and there'll be more to come. But this association has been a very part of my life, not only as a vendor when I was in business, but serving on the various committees. So I see nothing but great future for us. Thank you.
Thank you. And there's truly never been a year that a Beach family member wasn't a part of this association right from the beginning. And I got more questions for you, but I want to get to Miss Brandon next. First of all, I do want to point out, because this is my favorite thing to tell. As she mentioned, I wouldn't have ever told this in a public forum, but she said it. Talking about her fact checker and her voodoo doll. So I called her and I asked her if it was true that she had a voodoo doll of Walt Chisholm in her office when she worked here, and she admits to it. But on the other side of that, we talk about disagreements, but I mean, I do think there's still, at the end of the day, a lot more that we all have in common than we do that we disagree on. And her, Walt, would be an example of that, because I would challenge you to find people more passionate about this association and this breed. But Walt also told me one day, and I've told you this, but he told me one day that he was not afraid of dying. He was just afraid of dying before sharing Brandon. That her version of the stories would be what people remembered. But Sharon, I want to ask you, so, I mean, there's been lots of transitions. You talked about, from paper and then it became computerized. I mean, we've added, during your time here, added blood typing, and I think maybe DNA. Were you here when we went from blood typing to DNA? Would you talk about maybe, as you look back, I mean, you gave your predecessors a lot of credit for coming up with a registration system that has served us for 90 years, because, I mean, you want to know something about a horse that was registered in 1942, we can put our fingers on it pretty quick. It's a really good system. But in your time here, first, would you remember how many registration certificates you had your signature on? I know we looked this up at your, okay. I know. And then, but what were some of the biggest challenges? But looking back, what are you most proud of as your accomplishments?
I couldn't have accomplished anything if I hadn't had the staff that I have had. They'll always have a part of me. But I take pride in the fact that they were as passionate about what they did as the show industry. It was a very tedious job because we not only had to work backwards, but we had to work forwards. We had to service the members of the association at the same time. We continued to register horses, but we had to go back and pick up for the computer the originals. Although we have, I hope, still have the original papers, applications, all of that was on a computer, so you had instant recall. You could take an application for a customer that came in with a new code, pull it up on the screen, and the dates of ownership were critical to the correctness of the application. A lot of times that ownership was not always recorded consecutively as it should have been, but that's human nature. Those things worked itself out. We had some, I guess that's what I'm proud of. And I still have several of the ladies still working that I felt privileged to have hired, and they're still clicking. They're kind of like the Energizer bunnies. They just keep on keeping on. And I'm grateful to you ladies.
We all are.
Then I am very proud of the people that crossed my path. I can't begin to. You were talking about John Amos. Now there are some characters. I got to know him. He scared me to death because he was a fierce-looking little man. You got to understand, when I came to work here, I was 18 years old and worked for 4 years, and at 22 was elected secretary-treasurer. And I remember Jerome Ryan from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, was elected president of the association that year. And he and I had a lot of learning to do. But I got an education quick, not only about human beings, but about the business world. And I'm grateful for people like S.W. Beach, Bill Harlan Hayes. Those people were, I guess you could call them characters, but they were wonderful people. I got to know people in the training business. Bob Cherry was one of the first ones, and he was a former executive director. But John Amos was the owner of Amos Love Coal Company in Nashville. I don't know if there's anybody here that ever remembers that. Also, Mr. J.W. Kimcall Brick, I believe, concrete brick. They made bricks. And that smokestack used to still stand as you went into Nashville from the Nolensville Road, and that didn't mean anything to anybody away from here. But there was Dr. W.H. Vesey, Dr. John Taylor from Nolensville, College Grove, the Ezels from Chapel Hill, the Hunters, most assuredly, and James Hawkins, who was the husband of Mary Ann Hawkins, who was the, probably she would be listed as the third secretary treasurer of the association. There was originally Jim McCord, one of the past governors of the state of Tennessee, was probably the first secretary. Ms. Sid Houston was the second lady, and Mary Ann Hawkins. And, but James Hawkins also, his family owned the printing company here. So there's a lot of history in this town and in this county as it relates to the founding of the association. And I guess I'm actually the last secretary treasurer, because the bylaws were changed in 2007, I believe, to do away, not to do away, but to split the job, and therefore we have the system that we have now, which I'm not that familiar with. But we've had some uprisings through the years. They didn't necessarily take place in the alleys, the town alleys, but we've had some proxy fights that included ballot boxes being chained to boardroom chairs in the overnight hours. I sat up till midnight one night waiting on that box. My second son was born in June after that proxy fight in May. But he came into the world very calm. He did not uptight like his mother. So, as I said, I've learned, and I feel privileged to have known those people, those circumstances, not at the time, but as time goes by, you look back and you think, maybe I'm a better person for having been a part of that.
So we look back now and then, DNA testing and so, that's just the way it is. You parentage verify. Was it always everything? So to get this stuff done, was it always just smooth running, or was it controversial?
Oh, it was pretty controversial. Very much so. But it had to be done, not necessarily that anybody was intentionally doing anything wrong, but you all know that the mayors were trucked to the farms. The mayors were bred, and they didn't stay at the farm. They went home, and they were turned out in the pasture. So, if there was a stud running in the pasture with the mayor, who's to say? So, it was something that was just inevitable. It needed to be done to purify the breed. And then from blood typing, we went to parentage verification, which I could see no harm. I'm sure that a lot of the breeders weren't real thrilled with that. But I think it was necessary. I think our breed is better for it. And again, not that anything was intentionally done to be wrong, but it just happened.
Well, Mr. Smith, you came in, I know one time, when you came back years later after your first stint as president, you came in for a specific purpose. You needed to kind of correct our path and get us some financial stability and things like that. Do you want to talk a little bit about maybe some of your challenges, but also looking back, just, what you're most proud of and what you think will serve us well?
Yeah, put about a 90-second clock on me. I first got involved, I didn't really have any interest in being involved with the Breeders Association. 1988, we had a shutdown in Decatur, is that right? And it was obvious the Breeders Association hadn't done very well in their leadership. So we were in big trouble, we were in a lawsuit, nobody knew what to do, and my dad called a meeting in the center ring. The show was canceled, or postponed, or whatever the right word, and my dad called a meeting in the center ring and raised $500,000. He didn't have a plan and there was no structure. But we did, and that's what got me interested, because the breeders had failed to do what they should. So $500,000, 88 to now, whatever it is, 40 years ago, that might be 5 million today, but it's certainly a lot of money. But we hired the right people, got a good. But the reason I got involved to begin with is to try to raise the awareness with our elected officials and raise the awareness of people that were on the board that need to get involved, because if you sit on your hands, USDA was taken over by the animal rights people, and until recently it's still been. And we thought we were under the illusion, as every Middle Tennessee Christian is, if you do the right thing, it'll work out. That's not the case with USDA. Doing the right thing didn't have a damn thing to do with somebody turning down 13 out of 15 horses. I mean, so that's what kind of sparked my interest. And then people rallied around that conference, and I need to say right now, without Walt Chisholm and Glegor, and then the last thing, Nancy Lynn, because she's an accountant, and I talked her into running. She'd been beaten before. I talked her into running because I wanted somebody I could get the damn numbers from that I knew were perfect. And so I got involved out of frustration. We liked a horse and looking for a fight. So that was good. We did have the all-time, we had 20,000 members. Not total, I'm talking about that year. We had 20,000 members. We had a membership drive. We picked out the perfect person to be the 20,000 member and celebrate them at the celebration. So, and we had several $1 million in the bank, or more than $1 million in the bank. PGA is sitting there. One of the things the first board did was include the voice in every membership. So we went from the circulation, and you can slap me, but 3,800 to 20,000. So theoretically, our advertisers we were more attractive to advertise to 20,000 that all had a horse than we were 3,800 that were forced. So a lot of good stuff there, but like I say, I couldn't have done it without Chisholm, Glegor, and David Williams. I'm sure I'll leave out others, but it does take a team. But it was fun to see it grow like that. That year, we rounded up the Horse Show Commission. We inspected 84,000 horses that year. You heard me, and I suspect last year it was 20% of that. We hired a retired Tennessee Supreme Court judge to be our arbitrator. I mean, we really put it on another level. And I didn't think you ought to want to be president as an honor, but want to be president so you could pick out something to do. And so that was good. But after those terms, like I said, 20,000 members are important. Standing up to USDA was important. We formed a political action committee that was in the top 10 in the country. That was important. But I think I did what you ought to do. I served my 2 or 3 years and, left. I was interested, but didn't keep nosing into it. And then I guess it was 14. Was that the next time?
That's right.
All politicians say people bug you and want you to run, so that's part of it. But we had $180,000 in the bank. We were losing $10,000 a month. And I don't think anybody's simple math can figure out we were broke. The one great thing that Walking Horse leadership did was this building. This room wasn't here. This building is an icon, and it's bigger than any of us. It's fantastic. But we're going to sell the building. I don't know what we'd have done when we ran out of that money. But we were losing $10,000 a month. And I had run businesses that didn't have any income. We had lots of income. We've always had income, so you got to go to expenses. And the day I was elected, I met with Tracy and said, hey, we're going to get along fine. Give me a list of your top 11 or your 11 employees. I think it was 11. Was it 13 or 11? Well, I said, well, the first one would be if they quit tomorrow, you'd have a heart attack. And the last one would be you probably should have run them off a month ago. And so it may just be Tracy and I here, but I'm going to cut the overhead to meet the revenue. And it's not going to be pretty, and they may not like us. But that's what we're going to do. We're going to be closed 2 days a week. We open on Saturday from then on. And we stopped Saturday after a little while because it wasn't productive. It was a good stunt on my part, but it wasn't productive. But we turned the voice around. We stopped the slide. We cut our expenses. I didn't allow them to have donuts at the executive committee meeting. And that wasn't because we couldn't afford the friggin' donuts. It's because I was trying to set the example. We're not going to spend one friggin' penny because we don't have it. You can't keep spending it if you're losing money. So I am proud of that because we'd have lost the building without some change of direction. It might have been somebody else may have done it, but that was fun to do that. And I had enough confidence. I knew I could. If you got income, I knew I could cut. We didn't have any debt, so if you don't have debt and you got income, you just have to cut expenses. We cut the air conditioning off in the back building. I mean, you got to do these. You got to do these things. So Nancy Lynn was a big help. The other thing that I don't know that we utilize now, but in one day, searching the numbers, we could predict what the income of our association is. For the 25 years of my involvement early, the budget was just last year's budget, added a little bit to or take a little bit off, but there wasn't anything new. But I'm pretty sure Nancy Lynn was in the room. I know Chisholm was and David Williams. But by the number of mayor's bread, there's a simple formula how you can predict how much money you're going to bring in. So, you can't spend that much if you don't have it. So that was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed that. And Tracy did a good job, putting up with me. And Ms. Brandon, for the most part, would have killed me if she could have. But I mean, parentage verification. The breeding farms didn't want that. That was Chisholm. No, I mean, we rounded up the votes, but they didn't want a blood type because they didn't want to know for sure. We were so stupid, Amanda. We thought 2 black horses could have a spotted horse, and it was a throwback in the generations. That's what was said. That's what was said every year until my second year. We had a geneticist come in and said, you can't have a gray horse unless his mother or father's gray. Just that simple. That don't make a damn if his great-great-grandmother was gray or not. You can't have a spotted horse out of 2 black horses. The number 1 spotted horse stallion in our breed at that time was out of 2 black horses. It was probably just a mistake. I mean that. I don't, not throwing any darts, but when you breed lots of mares, the last thing they want to know is who they were really by. I requested my mare's parentage verification, couldn't get it, which lit a fire in my ears and my ass. It just, that ain't gonna last forever. So anyway, it was fun. My passion was to try to increase our standing with the Department of Agriculture, either by love or threat. And we've gone up and down. Jim Gilman was appointed general counsel by Al Gore, and we had a sweet spot of 4 or 5 years there. He didn't prosecute 1 case. And then it went back. Both sides, Republicans and Democrats, had animal rights people, and that screwed us up. We've got a chance to have a honeymoon now for a few years. But anyway, I've enjoyed my time. And I'll close unless you ask me another question. But for 20 years, I didn't go an hour a day that I didn't think about what we could do at the Breeder Association. I mean, what is it we could do to generate revenue? Drew up once a long-term lease for a McDonald's or a fast food in the front. We were broke. I mean, nobody wants a fast food in the front, but we had a location that would have given us a little revenue. and we've got some politicians here, and I need to point out Jim Tracy. So we started looking at ways of doing it. You see these license plates. So I asked Tracy, would he get us a walking horse license plate? That wasn't without controversy, because I think a number of groups had reached into that category. But Jim Tracy, now, he had to have lots of support, but Jim Tracy got us the license plate, which has produced over $1 million to our association. I think our worst year was probably 40 or 50,000, and last year was 60 or 70. And Mark, we probably ought to exploit that more.
Last year was 94,000.
Okay, well, I'm behind
And
time.
then right, Nancy Lynn, I'm looking at Nancy Lynn.
Well, the point is, and we've never really exploited that, and we need to, our Tennessee members, we need to encourage them to get a license plate, because we get a piece of that action, and all it took was filling out one sheet and a stamp. So, a lot of good things, but I hope that the next generation is people that want to do something, not just have it on their resume that there were things. So that, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You just hit 90 seconds, so
That's, time.
I was getting ready to tell you. So yeah, you may have just said your piece, but the final question I was going to ask each of you is, you know, as we leave here, and I mean, we're celebrating 90. I'd like to think in 10 years, when it's the centennial, that we're all going to be here for that. But let's say in 150 years, when we may not be here for that. When people look back, like we look back on some of the people you've talked about, when we look back on Mr. Hunter and look back on the beaches, and have all the great things to say. When people look back down the road, what do you hope they say about your time here at TWHBEA? And what direction do you think this association should go as it evolves into the future? You may have already said all that in your comments. You don't have to say another thing if you don't want to, or you can add to it.
I hope they look back and say he was unselfish, never asked for a damn thing, or got one fee backed up, and was trying to do the right thing, so to get us on a course where this could go to our grandchildren and do it. So that's what I hope.
Ms. Brandon?
I feel like Steve. I hope and I pray that the people that come after us, all of you all, because we probably won't be here the next deal, but that you will preserve and always remember. If you don't know, I remember Carol Benedict one time making and he was a past president from Hopkinsville, Glasgow, Kentucky, saying if you don't know where you've been, you're not going to know where you're going. And so you need to keep that in mind. We're human, we make mistakes, we just pick ourselves up and we continue because we have a jewel. You know, I've been to other breed registries, I'm sure some of you all have too, but nothing like what we've got. We've got a horse that is the most versatile horse in the business, and I've been away from it for a while. So I thank each and every one of you all for allowing me to express some of my feelings.
Thank you.
I'd like to address this to Amanda, Jeffrey, and some of you other guys. Folks, we're aging out. Look around the room. I don't see a lot of young people here. Having been in business 50 years, selling merchandise to the walking horse people, I remember the time when there was a couple of hundred trainers. It's not that many anymore. So I'm asking you guys, people that are responsible, we have to increase our marketing. We've got to find other ways to market, to get these people to horse shows. The Kiwanis clubs and the Lions Club and all the other clubs can't keep going at the rate they're going when there's no attendance and not enough horses to pay the expenses. Those days are here now, and I want you to please think about addressing that. Warren Wells, that goes for the celebration too. It's time to step it up. Thank you.
Any parting thoughts? Otherwise, I'm gonna ask all of you to join me in thanking these panelists. We appreciate them taking time out and reflecting on 90 years. So thank you, guys. You got something else? You look like.
I know everybody's wanting to go.
Okay.
I
But
will say this.
I was privileged to be here, what Tracy and I referred to, what Ms. Rambo and we had great times. This association experienced the golden years. We had horses in the ring, but we had papers coming in, we had people celebrating our association, and we had our difficulties. We had several proxy fights, I think I mentioned that, disagreements. And some of them were tough, weren't they, Steve? But we had great people. Everybody had this common interest, and that was the breed and this registry, and I hope we can maintain that.
Just a couple of housekeeping notes as you leave. If you didn't sign the register coming in, we'd love for you to sign it going out. Take extra copies of the 90-year history timeline there. We've got the little coins out front. Take one of those if you didn't get it. Thanks to Knox and to Tim for bringing Cavender out here. Steve, you told me early on, just talking about your pride in this building, that when you're driving down Ellington Parkway and you look over here, it looks like an international headquarters of something should be here, and it is a big matter of pride, and really, frankly, one of our greatest assets. But we took Cavender out front and made a picture of him in the front lawn with the building behind it, and I quoted you to Knox and Tim when we did that. But thank you guys so much. I look forward to seeing you maybe at our 100th, but until then, I'll see you at some more shows and back at our other meetings. Thank you so much for coming. One more thing. God, I'm gonna get in trouble. Today is our President Amanda Wright's birthday. I'm not going to ask you to sing, but if you could, at least give her a round of applause. She's Amanda, if you don't know it, I mean, you talk about the versatility of the breed, but I mean, Amanda has performance horses, she has pleasure horses. They own a former world grand champion that they stand at stud to the public. They breed to their own brood mares. They run a vet clinic. I mean, when we need advice on a multiple, she trail rides. She's a very avid trail rider, so we're lucky to have her in the position she's in. But I certainly didn't. I would be remiss if I didn't wish you a happy birthday, and hopefully everybody else will too. So, happy birthday, Amanda! Thank you, everybody, for coming.